everybody. Welcome to our Study Abroad panel here with Georgia Tech Admissions. We're so excited to have you here today and answer any questions and, of course, tell lots of stories about the times that we studied abroad. So my name is Kenna Valentine, just like the day. I'm one of the vice presidents of tour guides here at Georgia Tech. I am a third-year chemical and biomolecular engineering major from Annapolis, Maryland. Some things I'm involved in on campus are the Georgia Tech marching and concert and pep bands, so big music person. I'm also involved in a chemistry service organization, a music service organization, and a women's fitness group on campus. I studied abroad with the College of Sciences in a faculty-led program that took place in Lyon, France, at a French school called CPE Lyon. I took organic chemistry and biochemistry in a French school with French students over a summer for about 14 weeks. All right, Jacob, do you want to introduce yourself next?
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Jacob Buck. I am a fourth-year mechanical engineering major with a concentration in design. On Georgia Tech's campus, I obviously am a Georgia Tech tour guide. I also work for the Office of Undergraduate Admission. I am a member of a social Greek fraternity, as well as some smaller involvements here and there. And then I participated in the Georgia Tech Lorraine program, which is one of our larger study abroad programs. We actually have a full satellite campus in the east of France. And I can easily say it was one of the best choices I made in my entire time in college.
Cool. And that means I'm last, but hopefully not least. My name is Mike Marzano. I am a fifth-year computer engineer, originally from Laurel, Maryland, but now I call Augusta, Georgia my home. Which is very exciting. So here on campus, I too am a big fan of music. I've also been in the marching and pep bands and in the same music service organization as Kenna. And then I have also on campus gotten involved with one of the ECE service and honor organizations, as well as I am a teaching assistant for one of our introductory computer science courses. And so I studied on the Georgia Tech Pacific program, which is one of our most popular programs that we have. It is held by the College of Sciences, particularly the biology department. And so with this one, you spend 6 weeks in New Zealand, 4 weeks in Australia, and 2 weeks in Fiji. And so it was super, super fun. I got to nerd out, hopefully be able to share some fun stories of what I did there. But yeah.
All right, awesome. Thanks, everybody. We're going to get right into it. We have a question asking about the difference between a faculty-led study abroad program versus a full-on exchange program. So, Mike, I heard you talking about the Pacific program, which I know is faculty-led. So do you want to kind of talk about what faculty-led means?
Of course, yeah. So faculty-led means you are taking Georgia Tech classes with Georgia Tech professors in English, just not on Georgia Tech's main campus. And so that's what we mean by faculty-led. So you have a program director who is a faculty member here at Georgia Tech who's in charge of your program, in charge of those logistics. Most of the logistics are taken care of here by Georgia Tech faculty. As I said, you're with Georgia Tech professors taking Georgia Tech classes for Georgia Tech credit. So it's super, super easy to get involved in these programs and have everything directly apply towards your graduation and towards your credits for your degree. A typical exchange program is a little different. For that one, you actually enroll at a foreign university and you take classes there, sometimes in English, sometimes in the native language, and then you have to go through a process here at Georgia Tech to then transfer those over and get you applied to your degree. However, that's also a very reasonable and very doable process. One of my good friends did a exchange in Sydney, Australia, which she really enjoyed and had a lot of fun with that. And Georgia Tech gave her a lot of resources to help her not only get involved and accepted to that university, but also pick her schedule and pick the classes that would be easy to and directly translate to Georgia Tech credits.
Jacob, do you happen to know anyone else who's done an exchange option? It's always kind of cool to hear where people end up with those.
Yeah, I had a couple friends do I had one friend do an LBAT, which is the language immersion program. It was part of his major, and he was in Germany for 10 weeks, I think, taking classes. And then coincidentally, my other friend was there interning that same summer. So two friends working within 20 miles of each other in Germany. And so it's a really great way to get immersed into a culture. And one of the other kind of cool things about our programs is there's different level of faculty led. Some of it, the travel portions, you're with your same groups, they're planning out, the university's planning out your travel, your accommodation, things like that. And then some of our other faculty-led programs are a little more up to the individual students, where they get to choose what they do on their weekends, how they get there, and how they spend their time.
Yeah, awesome. Something that I really liked about, oh wait, we got another question. I can't wait for this one. Okay, so the question is, what was the best part of studying abroad? And I'll go first because I was able to read it first, and I'll pass it off to one of y'all. So I think the best part of studying abroad was I'm kind of a completionist in life. I play like life like a video game. I want to check all the boxes. I want to get all the points. So I want to get all the countries. And I was determined, and I knew that when I was in Europe studying in France, I should really try to get all my countries. I was only there for 10 weeks, and I was able to get 9 countries. So yes, France, because I lived there, but I also got Spain and Portugal and Austria and Italy and Germany and all sorts of different things. So it was really great to feel like I was being productive over the summer because, yes, I was taking classes, I was doing homework on the train, I was reading my textbook on the planes, but I was also, completing my checklist of life. So it felt very productive. Jacob, what was your favorite part about studying abroad?
I mean, there's so many like incredible things like that. And it was one of those experiences that I knew that I wanted to do in college. It was actually one of the reasons why I chose tech. Most like engineering schools, they're not, or schools that are very STEM heavy. Most of their students don't study abroad. And I knew that I really wanted to because I wanted to see the world. And that's really what like was my favorite part, like hopping on a train after class on Thursday, and like 3 or 4 hours later being in Rome or Prague or Ghent or Bruges and having food and going to museums and just like being a part of the culture, was really just such an incredible thing.
All right. And for me, is it cheating to say my answer is everything? It was just, it was one of the coolest things I've ever done. So like one of my favorite things growing up was to watch Steve Irwin, like The Crocodile Hunter. And so I've always like wanted to visit the South Pacific, like in Australia in particular. And so this program, the Pacific program, gave me the opportunity to go. And then when I went, I got to do just some unbelievably cool things. So like I'm a huge sci-fi fantasy nerd. So like in New Zealand, I got to go see the Lord of the Rings filming locations. I did a hike by Mount Narahoe, which is where they filmed Mount Doom. And so I got like a replica One Ring for Christmas, and I literally carried the One Ring into Mordor. And so like if you're that part of the study abroad appeals to you, it's super fun. But also I got to like be high adventure when I went. I got scuba certified when I was in New Zealand, which is something that also I'd always wanted to do. And so I got to do that. I got to meet really cool people. I got to get invested, like Jacob said, in the local culture. And like I got to experience the haka, which is the traditional like ward reading dance of the Maori people, which if you've never seen it, just Google haka. It's like the coolest thing you'll ever see. And that was like just the first like 3 weeks of my program. And so it really is everything you get to do, everywhere you get to go, everybody you get to meet. I could talk your ear off all day with my stories, but so final answer, everything.
All right, yes, definitely a very good time. Our next question is, what are some universities that tech does exchanges with? And I only know one off the top of my head, so I hope my buddies know some more. But the one that comes to mind is one of my roommates, actually, she is doing the international plan for her degree, and she did all of her work for that at the Technical University of Munich. So she was down in South Germany, Bavaria, living the dream, going to Oktoberfest, eating the pretzels, and then, of course, also getting her engineering classes done. And they were in German, and she did pass. So very, very proud of her for that. Does anyone know of any others?
I don't know really of many like specific ones, just because some of those names are very hard to pronounce. But it's really easy. We have actually, I think on the Office of International Education, they have a whole list of like every university that we've partnered with so far. And if there's like another university that you see has a program that you want to be a part of, you can submit a request form to see if you could potentially get credit for it. A lot of times they'll work with you to figure out how you could possibly get that awarded for credit.
I was just trying to find that list that Jacob mentioned. I can't find it through some quick Google foo, but it's oie.gatech.edu. So oie.gatech.edu. And if you follow the links on that website, you should be able to find a list of all of our exchange program colleges.
All right. Mike, do you know if any of our study abroad programs are major specific?
Yes. So a lot of our programs are not necessary. I wouldn't just, yeah. So some of them are major specific. And really, when we say major specific, we mean like major targeted. So like the Pacific program was the biology department study abroad program because we hit the Great Barrier Reef. We get to look through some cool ecology over there in the South Pacific. And so that's where the program is targeted. So biology and like some of our College of Science majors got priority when it came to the selection. But my program was 75 people, and so there weren't enough biology students interested in going that semester. So they then were able to accept other students. So I'm an electrical and computer engineering major, and so I was able to go on the Pacific program. I know our College of Computing has a CS program that goes through Barcelona. You have Georgia Tech Lorraine, which is like also one of the major, it's just kind of an all campus, but like I know specifically targeted towards ECE majors because there are a lot of ECE classes there. I know our architecture program has one that takes you through like South Europe. There's a couple others that will take you, like some of them go through Ireland. I think we have a dedicated major program that goes through like China, which major it is, I can't remember. But yeah, there's definitely programs that are tailored for your major, but just because your major is not tailored for that program doesn't mean you can't go.
Yeah, kind of to wrap that one up, Mike listed a bunch of great options, and oftentimes a department will make a study abroad that is for the people in their major so that anybody in that major can very easily study abroad. But if you are willing to make any slight rearrangements, any slight adjustments, add a minor, you can hop onto any of those programs, even if they're not yours. So if your department has one, it'll be really easy for you to fit it in. If they don't, it's just minor adjustments and you can still do it. So, Jacob, we have a transfer admit wondering how long they have to study at Georgia Tech before trying to go abroad.
I believe you only have to spend one semester on campus, your very first semester here in Atlanta, and then after that, you're able to study abroad. I have several friends who study abroad, who transferred in and studied abroad very, very quickly within the first two semesters. But I believe you can do it after just one on campus, as long as you're within the application deadlines, because that's really what you have to pay attention.
And we are starting a new program that is specifically for first years, where actually their first semester is spent abroad. It is very well supervised. They're not just going to like fly you overseas and be like, all right, kids, like good luck planning your own trips. There is some hand holding there at the beginning, helping you plan itineraries, helping you find accommodations. But since Georgia Tech is moving towards the point where even your first semester you can study abroad, there's definitely less and less restrictions on like how long you have to wait per se to study abroad. We're trying to get people out and about as soon as we can. So as long as those applications work, just like Jacob said, you should be good to go. All right. So, Mike, is study abroad only done for a summer period, and does it get very expensive?
So the first part, study abroad, when can you study abroad? Year round. It depends on when your program goes. So I know Georgia Tech Lorraine, I think, is a year-round program. I have friends who've done it in the spring, friends who've done it in the summer, and friends who've done it in the fall. So that one is year-round. We have other programs like the Barcelona program, which one of my former roommates went on, which was a summer program. And then you have my program, the Pacific program, which goes through spring. So I went January through March. So there really is no like time of year that limits when you can go. It's just the program that you want to go on and when that program is offered. As far as cost, it is very, very manageable. So Georgia Tech has a special study abroad tuition. which is specific for going on study abroad programs. So if you are out of state and are interested in doing that, I believe it's less than what your normal tuition cost is, but that may have changed recently. But yeah, so that is equal, if not less than the cost of actual tuition. And then normally you'll have a program fee as well. But like when my family planned it out for me to go abroad, it was roughly equal to my cost of housing. And then by working a job, a summer job, and then doing like birthday and holiday like gifts, I was more than able to save up enough money to have like some spending money to just go on trips and do what I want to do. So as long as you plan and are willing to like work for it, it is totally attainable. And then of course we also have huge scholarship opportunities at Tech, and I know that there are a bunch of scholarships that are targeted towards students who are looking to study abroad.
Yeah, studying abroad, especially if you're out of state, it tends to be cheaper than your like if you were on campus. One of my best friends has actually done Georgia Tech Lorraine, the Oxford program, and the Pacific are which are our three largest study abroads. Because she's from North Carolina, and she was like, you know what? If it's going to be this cheap and I get to see the world, I might as well spend an entire year just like traveling.
Wow, yes, great answer. Jacob actually like accidentally answered one of our questions, the can you go abroad more than once question. Yes, you can. You can go abroad as much as you want. You can go to abroad back to back. You can do basically whatever. The only limitation is will it like fit with your degree and how much are you willing to like bend the standard degree flow chart. And for the most part, our degrees are flexible. So if that is something you want to do, you can go for it. And there are even ways that you can customize your degree that encourage going more than once. For example, we have an international plan on our degrees where you will have to spend about like 28 weeks abroad, which a lot of people tend to chunk that up into, more than one trip, either like a fall and a spring, or maybe you do a fall and then you go for a summer and then you pop back for a few weeks. So if you choose a degree plan that has it built in to where you would go multiple times, it's definitely encouraged. And if you graduate with the international plan, not only does your diploma say international plan, but you get to wear the flag of the country that you studied in, like over your robes. So that's kind of cool.
One thing I will add to that is Georgia Tech has an in-residency graduation requirement where I think it's like your last 30 hours have to be taken in residence, which means you have to be taking Georgia Tech credit hours. So our exchange programs, you can absolutely do those more than once, but just be mindful that you have to do your last hours like as Georgia Tech credits, which is why our faculty-led programs are so awesome because they're Georgia Tech credits with Georgia Tech professors. So there were many people on my Pacific program that I went on who they're like, yeah, it's my last semester here, and I just wanted to go have fun and see the world before I had to go start work.
Very nice. Well, Jacob, I remember you talking about study abroad applications a little bit ago. So we have a question asking for advice on those study abroad applications.
Yeah, those applications are really, really simple. They're all hosted inside of the Office of International Education. Then you basically just like, I think for Georgia Tech Lorraine, it was like, of course, just like general information about myself. And then there was also like, I think I had to write like two quick little blurbs about why I wanted to study abroad, and why that program, maybe like 200, 250 words. So it was very, very easy. The system is very simple. It was very, very easy to navigate. And everything is so centrally located because we like to keep all of our experiences right in the same place.
Yeah, I think that Georgia Tech just wants people to go abroad. I don't know if you've heard the statistic, but us tour guides love talking about it. 51% of people at Georgia Tech do end up studying abroad. So with a number like that, you can probably do the math on like how hard is the application. It's not supposed to be hard. Georgia Tech wants to facilitate your, experience out of this country. They just want to make sure that they're like putting everyone in the right program, having enough space for everyone. So it's pretty much just a formality, just to make sure you know what you want, you know that you could take classes there, so there are no like surprises, no backing out last minute. But they want you to go.
Oh, one thing I
Right.
would say is it's best to make sure you fill out those applications sooner rather than later because a lot of them do have caps on the number of people, and some of them are very, very, very popular. And so they can reach a point where they will no longer accept any more applicants. So if you know you want to study abroad, better to do it soon. Fill out those applications sooner than later.
Okay, Jacob and Mike, we are going to raise our hands on three if we can speak a language other than English. One, two, three. Okay, so we all only speak English. And the reason I did that is because I got a question that someone does not feel super confident in their foreign language abilities and how important is fluency in the local language. And you can see all three of us just loving our experience, like chit-chatting it up. And clearly all of us only really speak English. I know that Mike spent a lot of time in like Australia where it might not have been such a big deal, but Jacob and I spent time in France and other European countries that do not speak English and often are a little bit irritated by the English language. But we managed to get through. Jacob, do you have any tips on how to navigate France while speaking English?
Yeah. First, it's great to like pick up a few words here and there. I took French like in elementary school, but I haven't taken it since I was like 8, so I had some basic understanding of the language. But it's good to know greetings, like how to ask for directions. Always an important one. Where is the restroom? And then aside from that, a great thing to have is if you have Google Translate on your phone, you can download languages so that way you don't actually have to be on a cellular signal to be able to like translate things. So if we ever got lost or like we're trying to read something and none of us knew, and like where were we one time? We were somewhere and everything was in Flemish, which like no one speaks anymore. But we had downloaded the Flemish keyboard, and so we were able to like navigate our way around very, very easily because we had downloaded it. And also, a lot of people in Europe do speak English to some degree, so it's very, very easy to figure it out and travel and explore.
I would say most people do speak English, like almost anywhere. We are lucky that English is a language that a lot of people want to know. But I would say the biggest thing, just like Jacob was saying, is like greetings and like little polite sayings because it goes a long way. If you're going to ask someone for something or you need help, even just attempting to speak in their language makes them more likely to help you. They will probably start talking to you in English, but really the language barrier is very low. But if you
Mhm.
are concerned about it, I would definitely recommend a faculty-led program as opposed to like an exchange program because like we were saying, faculty-led program, your professor from Georgia Tech Atlanta flies with you overseas and is going to be teaching in English. You don't have to worry about what language the class is in. When you are around your professor, it is all English all the time. So that's just like minus one stressor there. All right, Mike, is there anything about study abroad that you wish you knew sooner?
Um, Wish I knew sooner. Not really, because I jumped on the study abroad program train pretty early. As soon as I went to our facet orientation, which is our incoming student orientation over the summer, I like went to a like breakout session that was talking about study abroad programs, and I looked, and I'm like, ooh, I like E. Let me do this. So I went. We have our some point during the semester, we have our study abroad fair, which is hosted by the Office of International Education. And it's every program sets up a booth and they have an info panel. And so pretty much like from the start of my time at Tech, I was able to find out all the information that I needed to decide which program I was going to do and how I was going to fit it in my schedule. And so there really wasn't anything like on the how can I like the logistical side of it that I wish I knew going into it. And honestly, when I went to the Pacific, there wasn't anything that I wish I knew beforehand. Because part of the joy of my experience was learning and was getting to experience new things. Like it's like man, it's like when we had to fly everywhere, right? Like it was a huge plane ride. So it's like first time going through the airport, I was kind of like, man, I really wish I would have like flown a little bit more, been a little bit more comfortable with it. But then like by the end of the program, I was a pro at flying. I could like walk in the airport like I owned it. And like that is not like a growing experience I would have had I known it going in. So there really like wasn't much that I wish I knew beforehand.
That was such a good answer. Jacob, what was something that you wished you knew sooner?
Hmm. That's honestly like such a hard question because I kind of feel the same way that like there wasn't anything like I said, I knew that I wanted to study abroad. I knew that so I'd gone pretty proactively to find out which programs had interested me. Um, and got very involved with it and talked to people who had done it. Um, I guess I don't know. Ooh, this was something that some of my friends didn't know, but like I thankfully had enough friends who had done it before. That if you are going to be in Europe, switch your phone to military time if you are going to be taking trains anywhere, because they run on the 24-hour clock. And I have several friends who thought their train was leaving at like 8 p.m. and it left at 8 a.m. and they were just like SOL. Um, so like definitely make sure you understand like some of those like kind of like minutia things about like wherever you're going.
That actually reminds me, one thing I did wish that I knew before was having a little bit of plan of what I wanted to do. So, like as I said, I got scuba certified before I went, which meant that really I could only do my checkout dive. So, if you're unfamiliar with that process, you have to do a little bit of coursework, to like some written work to make sure you understand the basic material. Then you have to do some practice diving, like in a pool in a controlled environment. And then you have your checkout dives, which is where you actually go into the ocean or a lake or somewhere and go diving. So I wish I would have known like a little earlier that that was something I hardcore wanted to do, because I ended up having to like really stress and like kind of like papers flying everywhere, like a Disney movie type frantic to get all of that prepped before I left so I could go on my checkout dive. So like having a little bit of idea of like kind of some of the stuff you want to do beforehand, I would have liked. But also part of my fun was planning trips as I got there, talking with my friends and being like, hey, what do you guys want to do this weekend? And then kind of being spontaneous about it.
Total random side note, as a person that is also scuba certified, please do it. It's one of the greatest experiences you will ever have, and I cannot recommend it enough. My whole family is, and it's the best decision I've ever made.
I didn't know I was supposed to be like scuba certified to be on this call. This is like kind of awkward. I am not scuba certified. But we have another question. I'll ask both Mike and Jacob so that y'all can get like a different perspective for different faculty-led programs. But on average, how much time did you guys have to plan your own trips, even though the program is faculty-led? Jacob, you can go first.
Mhm. GTL is one of the programs where it is pretty much entirely up to the students. Um, So the way our like schedules normally work is during like fall and spring, it's 4 days of school a week with 3 day weekends, or even a couple like even longer weekends. And during the summer, mostly 3 day with like a couple 2 day and like one 4 day weekend. And it is fully up to you to plan all of your external travel. Most of us had Eurail passes, which is like you basically prepay. You have this booklet, and for 3 months, you have unlimited train rides anywhere. You might have to occasionally book like a ticket on one of the high speed trains, but for the most part, you didn't. Um, and so it's fully up to you to be doing that. So we did pretty much all of our planning once we got there. We had ideas of where we wanted to go, but we didn't book a single thing other than our Eurorails until we were already in France. Like our first weekend, we went to Munich, and we did not book our hotel until we were on our like final train of the night, just because we were so like, we were kind of wary about like booking it and somehow missing a train or something like that. And so we were like, as soon as we were on our final train, we were like, okay, we can book our hotel now. Whereas like some of our things, like when my friend and I went to Ireland and we got incredible like $30 round trip airfare. We booked that like several weeks in advance because there was a sale on airfare. And then there were some things where it was very, very last minute. So it kind of depends on who you are as a person.
Yeah. So the Pacific program is kind of the other end of that, because we have to jump around between countries on a set schedule. There is a lot of freedom to kind of do what you want when you were in New Zealand, a little bit of that in Australia, but much less of that as it kind of went on. So for us, we had 6 weeks in New Zealand. One weekend was a dedicated travel weekend where the program planned an excursion, but the other 5 weekends, it was up to you as a program person to just do what you want. So I was kind of like Jacob. I had ideas of what I wanted to do when I went, and then I planned everything while we were there. Oftentimes we used Airbnb a lot to book our stuff, like a week or 2 weeks, or even like the day before. That's how we did ours, and so we got to just kind of it was up to you what you wanted to do. You asked around and was like, hey, does anyone want to go do this thing? People would say yes. You'd get a group together, form a group meet, go plan it, and go. So that was really like up in the air for you to plan and make the experience you want. And you could plan stuff as early as you got there or like the day before. But then once we got into Australia, it was very much more a little bit stricter schedule because we were only in locations for such a short amount of time. So we were in Sydney for 2 weeks. So that meant we had the week to plan what we wanted to do in Sydney. Like once we got there, so like I got to do the Sydney Opera House, like explore a little bit, hit a couple of the zoos, which isn't something that I could plan until we were in Sydney and like really understood what we had access to. Then once we also went to Magnetic Island, Townsville, and Heron Island, which those were like, you spent 3 days, like 4 days, and then like a week. And Heron Island is a island out in the middle of the Great Barrier Reef, so like there isn't much to plan to do while you're there. And so that part was like very much the program did for you, but it wasn't unfun, if that makes sense. Like the places that they picked were like bananas, crazy, like awesome stuff you got to do. Like I got to swim with sea turtles when I was in like Heron Island. So just because a program may plan more for you doesn't necessarily make it, I think, any better or any worse than a program where you get to pick what you want to do. It's all about the experience you want to have. And so then you pick the program that tailors to that experience.
Yeah. And like kind of on the other end of that are like the Oxford program, which like a lot of people do between their first and second years, is like the first half of the summer, you're with a small group of students and faculty members, and they take you to specific cities in Europe. And there's like 3 different tracks. And so they plan your travel and your accommodations as you go through those. So it's a little more faculty led in those portions. But then you go and spend the second half of your summer in residency in Oxford. And once you're there, then you can kind of plan your weekends out from there.
Yeah, so what I'm learning is that literally every faculty-led program is very, very different in how you can like plan your travel and stuff. Mine sounds a little bit like Mike's, in which we almost had these like field trips that were built into the program, but we were told like the dates of those and the activities they were really far in advance. So if I wanted to meet up with my friends and do like a personal travel thing, we weren't going to run into the program dates. For example, my program was in Lyon, France, which is in, the south of France, but there was a week where they were like, we're all moving to Paris. And that's because we went to the Pasteur Institute, where they invented like pasteurization of milk and all that good stuff. So we got to see some really cool things in Paris. And they told us that we were going to go there to do science in advance. Something that was a little funky about my program, as I mentioned, it was a College of Sciences one, and although I am not a College of Sciences major, I have to take a lot of labs from the College of Science. So I took all labs that summer, and the thing with labs is that they were literally 8 hours long, so I only had class 2 days a week, which means that I had lots of freedom to just hop on planes, trains, and automobiles to go to Germany or Italy. And I actually got a personal question in the chat. I'm feeling pretty flattered. It said, for Kenna, did you visit all those countries in a group or by yourself? I actually went to one by myself, but not really, because it was to meet family friends in Frankfurt. But other than that, on the first night we got to France, we were eating like dinner together as a program. And I just kind of like asked the whole room. I was like, well, if anybody wants to like plan some trips after this, let me know. And a bunch of people came, and it literally took us like 6 hours in one massive Excel spreadsheet and a whole lot of logistics. But we had like, this weekend, people are going to Prague, Venice, and Rome. And then you could like sign up under the list. It's like, this is where people are staying, and this is the plane people are taking. So it was very organized in our case, and you could kind of just like put yourself on a sign up, like based off of like who you wanted to go with and where you wanted to go and how much you wanted it to cost. So a lot of flexibility, but for the most part, I went with groups. All right, we're getting so many questions. I love it. Okay. All right, well, I'm not a Georgia resident, so perhaps one of y'all who is a Georgia resident Will state aid such as Zell Miller or Hope cover the tuition of courses taught abroad?
Yes, it will. Which is one of the big exciting things. So like Zell and Hope apply for your course credit, which absolutely was covered because if you do a faculty-led program, so it's Georgia Tech credits with Georgia Tech professors, and so since you are taking your courses through the university, yes, they absolutely are able to absolutely they count for that. They do not cover your program fees or any of that thing, but also like your housing and stuff is not covered by Hope and Zell. So it's very comparable.
All right,
And
another
the
money-ish question. Oh yeah, Jacob, go ahead.
no, you're good.
Okay, well, I was going to ask you anyway, so you still get to talk.
Okay.
About how much did you end up spending going to do fun things outside of school?
Hmm. I probably spent like $1,500 over 12 weeks, maybe a little less. Actually, it was less than that. I budgeted like $100 ish a weekend. I have, like I said, I have an on-campus job, and so like I fully, once I was in Europe, everything was up to me. Um, and so I spent somewhere between 12 and 15, but that included any additional trains I needed, planes, hotels, museums. Anytime I wanted to like go out and like get dinner or go to like bars or anything like that, everything like that was covered under that. Um, and I have friends who did it for way less than that, and I have friends who did it for way more than that. So it really kind of, you can pretty much do it on any budget.
But I will say, college is the cheapest you will ever get to travel for. I know my friends and I, we weren't kind of like Jacob. We weren't trying to be particularly like cheapest end, and we weren't trying to, be like luxury end. We were trying to keep it somewhere in the middle. But since we are, young college students, can sleep anywhere, we would often like choose a plane that was overnight or a train or a bus that was overnight because that's minus one night on the hotel. So like making little choices like that that you could only make when you are in college, because you can deal with the consequences when you're young. Older people start to get like tired and cranky, but it is the cheapest you will ever be able to travel for. So that is super nice.
Mhm.
All right, I've
Host-
got a question. Oh wait, go for it.
I was going to say hostels are also like a really great way to like cut down on costs. And if you don't feel like ever doing like communal rooms with people, most hostels do private rooms. So if it's, you can get them for two people, four people, six people. I did that multiple times. And I think like the most expensive night I spent in a hostel was like me and one of my good friends. And we each spent like $16. And it was brand new, very clean, right in the center of the city.
Yeah, a lot of times in Europe, I know it like sounds weird probably from here, but a hostel will often ask you to bring your own sheets. But it's kind of nice because they're super clean inside when that's the case, and it's like $10 a night because they're not you're not paying for laundry, you're not paying for any of that stuff. So you can definitely do some stuff on the cheap. I think I have a question. We'll kind of go around round robin, but I'll ask Mike first. How much studying is there on a study abroad? So what's our, class to fun ratio?
Um, a lot more fun than class. At least that was my experience. Okay, so not really. It was really more like something like 55-45 fun to class for me because of the classes that I chose to take. But also, your professors know that you are on a study abroad. Like they know you are here to experience the world, to get experience, and to enjoy yourself. So they're not going to like be unreasonable. So it's like I was like I took a computer science ethics course. And as part of this, like he had a couple essays that we had to write. But the requirements for those essays were something where all it took me was like 2 or 3 hours to kind of like work on it. And that was just super reasonable. And so I was able to like travel and do everything that I wanted to, but also succeed in my classes. And the professors, when you're on a program, they understand why you are there and what you're trying to do. And so they work with you to give you the knowledge you need, but to also let you go have the experiences you want.
Jacob, do you want to speak to that at all?
Yeah. Like I took I took 10 credit hours, and and it was all 2000 and 3000 level mechanical engineering courses. So like generally very hard concepts like thermodynamics and fluids. And I still got a 4.0 abroad, and I did not study on the weekends because that was time for me to travel. I would get out of class at the end of the day. I would do my studying then, do my homework, and prepare because I knew that I wanted to have a fun weekend in wherever I was going to be. And so I made sure I got everything done. But also, again, like what Mike said, professors are not going to be unreasonable, especially like for the professors that go over to Georgia Tech Lorraine, they bring their families over and they also want to travel on the weekends. So like they don't want to spend their entire weekend like grading papers and doing all of this. Um, and so it is a very, very reasonable workload to get done while you're abroad. You're going to learn a lot. You're also going to have a lot of fun. I came back knowing the exact same things that my friends did who took courses in Atlanta that summer, and we did the same exact things, but they didn't get to have nearly as much fun as I did.
Yeah, I will say when Mike said that it was like more fun than class, I was like, my classes were kind of hard, but it's fine. I think for me it was probably about 50-50. The classes, I kind of like, I guess initially it was just a surprise because I was like planning like vacations and I was like, oh man, I can't wait to try this food and, go to this French winery. And then I was like, oh crap, I actually do have to go to school. And I had to do lab reports and, pre-lab and homework. It does make me laugh because sometimes I go through my pictures of when I was studying abroad, when I'm feeling down, just like raise my spirits. And every like 40 pictures or so, there's like 10 pictures of a homework or like 20 pictures of like a lab setup. So for me, it was definitely like interspersed in the experience. And what are you going to do on a plane other than your homework? So you just got to find times within your travel schedule to get done what you need to get done. Found it very manageable, but I definitely thought it was a good mix of school and study, abroad. Looking for more questions. Oh, last question, I guess. Wow. Oh, okay. Sounds good. All right. So we will go around in a circle. This is a great question. So, aside from exploring new cultures, meeting new friends, what was the major related reason that you chose to go to the country that you went to for your study abroad? And what makes them like academically different from other countries? I guess we can start with Jacob.
hmm So one of the really cool things about Georgia Tech Lorraine is it's in the eastern part of France, really close to the border with Germany. And there's a lot of people that consider that region of France to be like the Silicon Valley of France. A lot of tech companies, and so that's what drew Georgia Tech there. And that's what draws a lot of our faculty there. Some of the faculty members that we have at Georgia Tech Lorraine are full-time European faculty members that are solely there because of the incredible research being done by other universities in that area. And so I knew that I was going to get to be doing world class stuff. You can actually get your master's in mechanical engineering at GTL. So if anyone's looking at masters and doing it somewhere else, look into it. But I knew that it wasn't going to be. I knew it was still going to be an incredibly academically rigorous time. I was going to be learning a lot, and still getting courses that were going to apply to my major. I had placed out of a lot of my like general ed courses, so I couldn't do a program like Oxford because then it would be eating into like my elective space for my minor. So it was being able to get ahead on my major while being able to travel and see the world is really what drew me to GTL.
All right, Mike, why the Pacific program?
So for me, the Pacific program has most stuff that has nothing to do with computer engineering, but I picked it because of how cool the electives were. So I had to do a lab science requirement, and there were a couple labs that I could do, like here on campus. But the idea of doing my lab in the ecological place that is the South Pacific was just unbelievably exciting to me. Like being able to go out and experience like New Zealand, which is a like completely like isolated environment, and you have like birds like the kiwi, which is a flightless small bird. like that couldn't exist like anywhere else in the world. And so being able to look at the ecology and the nature of New Zealand as like part of my coursework, like that's academically why I went. And then I also kind of lucked out in that my course schedule, I got to take my ethics requirement, I got to take my health requirement and an engineering elective. And so I picked this semester to kind of be like a non-major specific semester. And that's how I worked it into my rotation and like why I picked it. But really for me, the number one reason why I went was the fun. And I made the fun mesh with my major.
Yeah, so for me, I always joke that I didn't choose the right study abroad for the major I was at the time, but I chose the right study abroad for the major I became. So I actually changed my major during my study abroad. I kind of knew that the major that I originally picked coming in wasn't super working for me anymore. It was like a College of Sciences major, and I kind of wanted to branch out from that. But I ended up changing my major to chemical engineering. And it turns out Lyon, France, the town I was in, it was like the worldwide birthplace of chemical engineering because it had a really interesting synthesis of Asian cultures bringing silkworms and Italy bringing dyes. So Lyon was one of the first ever textile places in the entire world, like, 14th, 15th century Rome-ish time. They were the first ever people to make textiles. So French people were the first to like make a field out of chemical engineering. And a lot of the tours we went on, a lot of the labs that we, went on like field trips to were like the places where chemical engineering was born. The Haber-Bosch process was invented in Lyon. So it ended up meshing well with what I ended up doing because now I happen to have been to the place where like some of the most famous chemical processes were invented. So I kind of just chose it because it worked with my schedule. I wanted to go in the summer and it was classes that I needed both for my old major and my new major, but it ended up working out for the best because now I feel like a very broad chemical engineer. All right, well, thank you everyone for your questions. I know I had a lot of fun answering them and telling stories. So we're all going to tell one more story. You're going to hear from each of us one more time about why we chose Georgia Tech, because I'm sure you all have a lot of decisions to make coming up, and the more people's opinions you hear about Georgia Tech, the easier it is. So I will go first about why I chose Georgia Tech. So I said earlier I was from Maryland, which is a pretty far ways away from Atlanta, and when I was looking for schools, I really only knew that I wanted somewhere that was good at science and math. So I toured a lot of really high-power technical institutions, such as Georgia Tech, and something struck me as a big difference between Georgia Tech and those other schools. And it was that at other schools, people were very hard workers. And at this school, people were very hard workers too. But when I smiled at people, people smiled back. And that was symbolic for me because, yes, you can go to tons of schools that are very academically rigorous, that are very well respected in what they do. But at Georgia Tech, you can get both. You can get academic rigor and like a respected program, but you also get the community that wants to help you out. Yes, the school can be tough at times, but it never really feels that bad because everybody is here to uplift you and support you, from your professors to the person sitting next to you in class to the person that you just pass by on Skiles Walkway. So it was definitely that combination for me, and I was able to understand that just from like a quick smile from a student when I was walking past on my tour. So that's why I chose Georgia Tech. We can hear from Mike now why he chose Georgia Tech.
So my Georgia Tech was very logical. So as I said, I'm from Augusta, which is about 2 hours east in state. And so growing up, both of my parents are electrical engineers, and they would come home from work and they'd be like, "Oh my goodness, Mike, I can't tell you what I'm doing because, it's proprietary company stuff, but you would absolutely love it. It'd be so cool." And so I decided one day that I was going to grow up and do exactly what my parents did. And then looking here, like for schools, I'm like, hey, we got Georgia Tech just down the road. At the time, it was like the number 6, ECE program in the country. Now it's like number 4. And it was like just made a lot of sense for in-state tuition for what I wanted to do, to be far enough away from home that I could have a college experience, but close enough that I could go visit family or like in an emergency, like have a resource close by. And so that's why I came here, because it just made sense. But I have stayed here and I've loved it here because it's a fun place. The people here, as Kenna said, are absolutely fantastic. They're here to support you, encourage you. and help you succeed along with them. It's not so much a competitive like environment that you might find at other universities. It's a collaborative environment. And that's something that's pushed everywhere from like the top of the university level all the way down to the students in your classes. Like it's such a collaborative, cool environment. I love the way that our classes focus on hands-on learning. Pretty much every class you will take at Tech has either a lab section associated with it, or it will be project-based. And as I was going into my internships, to have those classroom experiences, I was just like, wow, I feel like leagues ahead of my other peers from other universities. And then like we have a lot of fun traditions here at Tech. Our football team and basketball teams and tennis and baseball and softball, like all the traditions surrounding there, they're fun to go to. And yeah, it's that and so that's really it. And also I like to say I had more fun than should be allowed as a first year in college. And so there's pretty much no end to what you can do at Georgia Tech. And so that's why I came here, and that's why I love it here and why I stay here.
I guess I'll talk about my why Georgia Tech. I think I actually forgot to say where I'm from in the beginning. I'm from Sandy Springs, Georgia. I literally like I'm sitting in my apartment right now, and if I like point north, my house is directly 7 miles away. Um, so I grew up with Georgia Tech kind of in my backyard. And when I was really little, I kind of realized I was good at math and science, and I found out that engineering was a thing. And I found out that Georgia Tech was a place, and it was good at engineering. And so I came to my parents when I was like 7 or 8, and I said, "Mom, Dad, I'm going to go to Georgia Tech." And ever since then, they always called me their little engineer. But as I got older, I started to really think that Georgia Tech was kind of the last place I wanted to go to college because I realized I was like, oh, it is in my backyard. I've lived in Atlanta my entire life. It's going to be like high school 2.0. But as I entered like my junior year, I had older friends who went to Georgia Tech, and I got to spend time on campus with them. I went to lectures, I talked to professors, I talked to other students, I went to football games, and then especially during senior year, I got to see it even more. I got to tour the Invention Studio, which is the largest student-run makerspace in the country, and is one of my favorite places in the world. And I learned more about our study abroad programs. And then just talking with people on campus made me realize how different of a place Georgia Tech is versus what I thought it was. Like I said in the beginning, I knew that I wanted to study abroad, but I also am dyslexic. So learning a foreign language is kind of out the door. So Georgia Tech let me study abroad and not have to learn French fluently to be able to do it. And I knew that I wanted to get hands-on experiences in maker spaces, and I can just walk into a room that has 38 3D printers and just like freely print. And then I also don't feel like scared to ever lean over to a stranger next to me in a lecture and ask for help because I got lost. And people ask me the same. There really is a really strong family environment on campus. Both Kenna and Mike said this, that people care about one another. They want to help each other, whether it's like I've seen strangers walk up to our current president, Cabrera, and ask him like, "Hey, where's the nearest restroom?" And like this man runs a university and like pointed directly to wherever they needed to go. Like people care so much from every level of the institution for people in the community who are visiting our community and who want to be a part of it. And it was really those reasons that made me realize Georgia Tech was the place I wanted to be.
All right. Well, thank you for those Y Tech stories now, and of course, all your other lovely stories. Thank you all for coming today. I hope you all join the 51% of Georgia Tech students that study abroad. Yeah. Thanks for coming. Have a good one.